We've got a start of a brand, so a voice, values, really good starting points. And then we want to take those things and move into the idea of developing a visual identity. So again, there's more to it than just developing a logo, but logos are always an easy place to start. So this is a transect of where the tool library came from in the form of logos. So when we started originally back in 2011, we were the University Heights Tool Library. And that was just really a function of the tool library was located in the University Heights neighborhood of Buffalo. I thought it makes sense to pay homage to where we were. And so the tower in the middle is the big bell tower on campus at the University of Buffalo. So that was really the main kind of graphic piece of the logo. And then we had the little wrenches as a secondary graphic piece incorporated into the tool. But as you can see, I really knew nothing about graphic design. So pretty janky, not a great design, lots of colors going on, very busy. Within the first year of us opening up, we had someone stop into the shop and they were like, you really need to incorporate more colors into your space. At the time, it was just like painted white, the storefront that we were in. And they were like, you should really choose an accent color and paint the wall that faces the street that color. It'll draw more attention to the space. People will wonder what's going on. So we were like, okay, what's going to be our accent color? And we ended up going with the teal in the university. And thus is how Tool Library Teal was born. We just chose one of those four colors and decided, let's go with this, and ended up, as you see, a few years later, we tried to simplify the logo a little bit, make it a little easier to put on business cards, on t-shirts, that sort of thing. And we ended up just going with the teal. So we got rid of the brown, the orange, and the green, and really just decided, okay, teal is going to be our brand color because we have started to incorporate that into our physical space. We've started to incorporate that into things like our business cards, our merchandise, that sort of thing. So for us, it really made sense. Okay, this is the color that we're choosing, and this is really going to become the color that speaks to our brand. And then we came to another crossroads in 2017. So up until that point, we were operating under another 501c3, and we had gotten to a point where our budget was larger than their budget. So it made sense for us to incorporate as our own nonprofit. So we had to file incorporation paperwork. And as part of that, we had to choose what our name was actually going to be. So this was a big discussion with different volunteers and different board members. Would we continue to call ourselves University Heights Tool Library? One of the issues we found is that people not living in University Heights thought that the tool library was specifically only for residents of University Heights. So we were like, okay, do we shift to Buffalo Tool Library? But at that point, we were serving two counties, Erie and Niagara County, Buffalo, of which was the largest city, but still we had a lot of members not living in Buffalo. So would we alienate people who weren't from Buffalo? And then we were like, okay, do we call ourselves the Western New York Tool Library? But again, from a branding, marketing perspective, shorter is better. So we decided to go just with the tool library, very short, very sweet. And again, really focus on what we did as opposed to where we were geographically located. But you can see, obviously, the wrenches continued on, and that has been the consistent sort of visual piece that ties all of these logos together and that we really use as a good sort of brand recognition piece. I will let you into, it's one of those like FedEx, when you see the arrow between the X and the E, you can't unsee it. I had someone tell me that the O's look like two little Lego hands reaching up. And so now I can't unsee that. So yeah, Easter eggs and logos, always fun. But again, visual identity is more than a logo. So you can see on the left what we put together, just a really short and sweet brand guidelines for the tool library. So thinking about things like color. So what is your main color? What are some of your accent colors? Teal for us, the blue is really the main color that we use, but we did begin to bring back the orange and the green for different programs. Again, just to help differentiate between tool borrowing versus when we're out in the community doing service days versus our repair cafes. We found color has been a really great tool to separate those out and explain to people that these are separate initiatives, separate programs, all under the tool library umbrella. Also, thinking about typography, if we go back to these three logos, some very different typefaces you'll see here, and we ended up settling on a sans serif here at the end called Jelly. I think the lettering kind of lends itself to the word jelly. It's very rounded, it's very fun, it's very open. So again, thinking about even going back to like your brand voice, what are those descriptors that you want your brand to make people feel? So we wanted to be fun, we wanted to be approachable. So we moved away from these serif fonts that felt very old school, felt very stodgy. And we really moved towards something that did feel a little bit more fun, a little bit more approachable, and a little bit more modern. So thinking about images in photography. So how can you capture your brand? It could just be photos on your smartphone, or if you have someone in your organization who is a really gifted photographer, how can you begin to incorporate some of that into building what your visual brand is? So for us, we try to use colors in the shop. So our pegboard with tools has really become a piece of that visual identity, a piece of our visual language. When you say tool library, it might not resonate with people, but when you can visually show them it's actually a library of tools where they've got tools hanging up and you can borrow them. We found that has just been super helpful. And the pegboard itself, we use that as a visual cue. So we'll use teal pegboard as a footer on our website or a footer on an email. It's just a fun piece of the brand that speaks to what we do. But is all wrapped up into that larger brand. And then other visual assets as well. So again, talked about using things like wood grain, pegboard. I think the beautiful thing about tool libraries and libraries of things is that we have so much to draw on, and there really is a lot of fun iconography that we can build on that helps people imagine using tools and being handy and doing things yourself. We had a lot of fun with these mascots that we had developed working with a local artist. So our friends I believe in Edinburgh, call their volunteers Tooligans. So we borrowed that for our volunteers, but then we also call their mascots Tooligans. So we were super excited to roll these out, working with a local artist. We rolled out the first three, I want to say 4 years ago. So we've got Bit the Drill, Thule the Wrench, and Hamilton the Hammer. When we first were like, yeah, we should have a mascot, we were thinking, if anyone remembers Clippy, the assistant from the original Microsoft Word, but we were thinking like a bizarro version of Clippy. So that's how we wound up with our Tooligans. And again, you never know what these fun little visual pieces of your brand will end up helping you with. Our first ever staff person that we hired back in 2022, Lissa, our operations manager, started following the tool library because she saw the naming contest that we had for the original Tooligans and got super interested in the tool library. A couple months after that, we were hiring and she ended up applying and got the job. A really random way for her to get introduced to the organization, but just a really fun way, I think, to kind of bring people into the fold who otherwise might never know about your organization. And unfortunately for us, we didn't have anyone who suggested Toolie McToolface for any of the Tooligans. So, and now we have 3 new Tooligans that we've developed, and we'll be releasing these at our fundraiser. Our annual fundraiser is a garden party. So again, thematically associated with our fundraiser, but we also do a lot of work with community gardens, a lot of service days out in the community. So it's really nice to be able to tie those into kind of the programmatic aspects of our organization